Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Project Infinite podcast, a podcast spanning the entire multiverse of fandom. I'm Rob, here with Courtney. Courtney, episode 3, we did it.
Yes, we did. 3 episodes down. Lucky 3.
So, as a deviation from the past 2 episodes, this is not going to be a topic-based episode, nor a news-based episode. We are going to talk explicitly about The Suicide Squad, a movie that opened on Thursday night. Yep. And we're here to talk about it in all its Suicide Squad glory.
Yeah. Just first things first. This is a great movie. I don't think that's really deniable. This is a good for if you're kind of on the fence to one of the better comic book movies that's ever been released, in my opinion.
Ooh.
And a lot of that comes from James Gunn, first and foremost. He put together and crafted a really great looking film. Really, the score as well. Music was great. And the score on top of that. The cast was great. Led by a lot of A-list actors that are just really at the top of Hollywood too. And
Margot Robbie. Will Smith.
Yeah.
Jared Leto.
Oh, that's Suicide Squad.
Oh, I watched the wrong movie then. This is going to be a short episode.
I think you can leave now. I'll cover the rest of this episode.
No, but we are going to talk about James Gunn's Suicide Squad. We're going to do kind of a general review for 15 to 20 minutes, and then we're going to go right into the spoilers. I'll let you know when we're going to start spoiling the ever-loving hell out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can dip out. It's fine. I won't hold it against you. Or I might. You might not know. But, so first what I want to start with is kind of just the metrics of this movie, right? So it released in the midst of a never-ending pandemic and this weird deal with HBO Max with Warner Brothers. And that led to a $26.5 million weekend box office, which is not great.
No.
For a, what was it, $180 million movie.
I believe so. Something around that.
Yeah, so definitely an underwhelming return for the box office. But I think a few things go into that, right? So you have the pandemic, obviously.
That's number one for the foreseeable future, unfortunately, and for the past.
Yeah, I thought we were getting through it, and then now we're kind of spiraling backwards. But we're not here to talk about a pandemic. We're here to talk about Suicide Squad. So the pandemic, for one. 2, this weird HBO Max deal that a lot of people are not happy about in the film industry.
Especially directors are really not, and just filmmakers in general, writers, people that are really working on these films that believe they should be shown in theaters, and that's fine. But what the issue comes down to is, I believe this is really a case of the studios kind of getting scared when they were in the height of the pandemic, especially with Tenet coming out in the middle of 2020. And they said, let's just release all our movies so we can try to generate some revenue. At least we can get our HBO Max subscriptions up. That's where Disney kind of gets into this weird area as well, where they're paying, on top of you paying for Disney Plus, you're also paying for the film that's coming out. HBO Max isn't doing that. I can just wake up, see Space Jam, see Judas and the Black Messiah, and recently see Suicide Squad.
Godzilla vs. Kong. I think HBO Max made a real bold call, right? Because Disney kind of played it by ear. They were like holding on to Mulan for a while, and they were like, all right, Mulan in theaters and premiere access.
Right.
Black Widow, they held on for forever. More than a year.
Yeah.
They held on to that movie in the hopes that they'd be able to go full cinema release. Eventually, they couldn't. And they did that premiere access and theaters. HBO Max from the jump was pretty much like, hey, our entire 2020-21 slate, we are going to keep on HBO Max.
Yeah. And that's fine. It just depends who you are. If you're a filmmaker that's working on this movie, you can't be too happy about that. You believe that your movies should generate revenue. They're going to look at it, hopefully when we're out of this pandemic, and they're going to say, did your movie make money? And these 2020 and 2021 movies did not make money at the box office. And then they're not going to give you sequels. That's what people are afraid for Dune. They believe that maybe Dune might not perform well enough to get a sequel to a series that should have multiple sequels, especially with the cast and the director that they have behind that. So Suicide Squad is in that gray area where we don't know if it's going to get a sequel. There's been interest ever since the movie's come out since last week. So we will see. So hopefully it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing this movie has going for it is that it's really good, right?
Yeah, that's number one. You got to make a good movie.
Not just among fans, but critics love this too.
Yeah.
I think it's a really critically acclaimed film right out of the gate, and I think that has it going in a positive direction despite this box office thing. The other things going against it is the R rating, which is always going to be kind of a hiccup for blockbusters.
Right.
I think people kind of got fooled by Deadpool.
Yeah.
When they were like, oh my God, this R-rated film made $160 million its opening weekend. That's not going to happen with everything.
No.
I don't think even in a normal circumstance, I don't think that would have been the expectation for this either.
No, because you're going off of Suicide Squad, the 2016
That's the other
David
thing
Ayer
I
version.
wanted to hit on too.
People didn't really know what this movie was. The casual moviegoer probably wasn't saying to themselves, oh, this is James Gunn. They're not looking for directors. They're just looking to go to the movies on a Friday night with their friends, family, whatever it may be. So,
and they're seeing familiar faces in this cast, right? They're seeing Margot Robbie again. They're seeing Joel Kinnaman again.
Margot Robbie, the star of the DCEU at the moment.
Pretty much.
The queen of the DCEU. You can dread it, run from it, but Margot Robbie will arrive nonetheless.
And I kind of wanted to touch upon that too, in so far as people are kind of giving James Gunn a ton of credit for the direction this movie takes. But to be honest, this kind of tonal shift, quote unquote, started with Birds of Prey.
Yeah, it did.
And Margot Robbie pushed for an R rating for Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
Because she knew that this character of Harley Quinn needed that kind of R-rated, gritty, violent, kind of psychopathic thing to elevate that character. And you could say what you want about Birds of Prey. It's not a perfect movie. I liked it.
Yeah, Birds of Prey... Actually, so my first hot take on here, Birds of Prey is in my top 3 of the DCEU. This is me personally. That's a really hot take. I think the action in that movie is some of the best hand-to-hand you can find in a comic book movie.
And it's unique.
Yeah, it is. It's extremely unique. I mean, Ewan McGregor as Ronan Sionis is a great casting. And just the other characters, Journey Smollett grabbing her before her stardom at Lovecraft Country as a Black Canary is awesome. Hopefully we see her again. We see all those characters. That movie really kind of opened the back door. And then adding HBO Max on top of that, we're seeing Blue Beetle. We're seeing Peacemaker. We might see Bloodsport after the success of this movie. Hopefully we see some of those characters come back, maybe in the same projects as well.
Yeah, and I think Birds of Prey kind of needs its flowers in that regard because obviously James Gunn's the kind of the headline here, but this is also a really great Harley Quinn sequel, kind of building off the back of what Birds of Prey established about that character.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get into it in a little bit of spoilers a little bit later, but that character gets kind of a really big payoff from what her entire journey of Birds of Prey was.
Yeah, it does. So yeah, first and foremost, so who's your favorite Suicide Squad character?
Oh, man. I'm going to have to say, and I think we're going to have to dive into this a little bit in spoilers also, but I really love what they did with Rick Flag in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Definitely. That's actually a great pick right there. I mean, in Suicide Squad, the 2016 version, he kind of was so cookie cutter.
He's standard army guy.
Yeah, he's standard army guy. You could have put anybody in this role, but in this film, he gets so much more personality. I just think I know he kind of had that like southern accent, but it really kind of protrudes in this movie, and it's just kind of direction choices that you make.
It's funny too because I think Scott Eastwood is in that movie, the original 2016 Suicide Squad, and he could have been Rick Flag in that movie.
Yeah, he
honestly,
could have.
With what they did with that character.
Yeah,
because like you said, he's kind of generic army guy, and he's kind of exposition boy.
Yeah.
In the first movie, where he's like,
explain every character when they come on screen.
I mean, the famous kind of helicopter scene with him and Katana. This is Katana. She has my back. She's got a sword that sucks the souls of her victims, and you don't want to he just goes on and on and on
for every character.
Yeah, right. And in this movie, he feels way more 3-dimensional.
Yes, he does.
He has charm. He has wit. He's culpable as the leader of the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and it's funny because in those 70s, 80s Suicide Squad comics, he really is the leader of this team. I feel like in the Suicide Squad movie, the 2016 version, he kind of took that back seat to the other characters, to Will Smith, to Margot Robbie, and to Deadshot as Will Smith.
Deadshot kind of clowns him a lot in that movie.
Yeah, he does. He kind of calls him on all the crap that they're kind of doing. And in this one thing that I love that they chose is they understand their Task Force X. Like, they understand, like, this is a Suicide Squad that goes on these missions expecting to die.
But also, what I liked about the Rick Flag character, and I don't think this is a spoiler to talk about, is he genuinely seems like he cares about everybody on his team.
Yeah, he does, because he's been there for a while. Amanda Waller, this feels more as if he's more choosing. I believe in the 2016 version, he didn't have a choice, and he kind of was being, and that's the one thing about Rick Flag. He shouldn't be the character that doesn't have a choice. It should be the actual Suicide Squad that doesn't have the choice.
And this is kind of the thing, too, that kind of confirms that this is a sequel to the 2016 Suicide Squad, is you can tell that Flag and Harley and Captain Boomerang all have a rapport with each other.
Yeah.
And that kind of what shows you that, yeah, this is a sequel to the 2016 movie.
Right.
It's a sequel to Birds of Prey because it's not a spoiler to say in the first 5 minutes, Captain Boomerang's like, Harley Quinn, why are you back here?
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
Right.
So I kind of did like that they kind of addressed that like, no, this is a sequel and we're going to build off the back of these characters that were in the first one. And like I said, Rick Flag, I was surprised with how much I liked him in that movie, and that kind of elevates him to honestly being my favorite character in that movie.
Yeah.
What about you?
My favorite character in that movie, man, and once we get into the spoilers, I can kind of talk about that, but I've kind of been balancing two characters, so I can't really break the tie, but I'm in between Bloodsport, obviously, but I believe that might be too easy, just because he kind of does get the most, he is kind of one of the main characters as the movie progresses. But Ratcatcher, man.
That's Ratcatcher
2. She is one of the best characters in this movie. She has the most emotional investment, in my opinion, in this movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
She really is kind of the core of this team that we're building with these killable characters. These characters that you might not want to get attached to as we go on.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. I think like I said, I was surprised with Rick Flag, but I was also surprised with Ratcatcher because Ratcatcher is such a goofy villain in the DC mythos, especially the Batman mythos.
Oh my god, yeah.
So you're like, who is this? What does she do? And to build her character in the way that they did as Ratcatcher 2, that's literally what they call her in the movie, which I thought was funny. And yeah, you're right. She gets a ton of play in this. The movie kind of revolves around a core group of characters, right? So it's Bloodsport, it's Harley Quinn, it's Ratcatcher 2, it's King Shark, it's Peacemaker, it's
Polka Dot Man,
yes. Right? And then it's Amanda Waller also.
Right. And let's talk about Amanda Waller real quick. I know she's kind of playing the same character, but this just, like I said, this goes down to directing choices. This goes down to getting in your writer's room and really breaking down characters that really don't have a lot to be broken down because they're very one-dimensional. She's so much better in this movie. I wrote here, she's credibly ruthless. I know that scene in 2016 where she kills everybody in the room. It's funny because she didn't really need to do that after the mission. But this movie, she kind of has her team that she has with her, like her, not the Suicide Squad, her
subordinates.
Yeah, her subordinates.
Her office staff.
Yeah, and it really is, it gave me a lot of Office vibes, which was funny enough. Like, imagine the Office just in the middle of the DC
Imagine that's what
universe.
It's like working at Amazon.
You do?
Yeah.
It's a hot take. Jeff Bezos built a spaceship and you're making takes like that on there.
I imagine it's not dissimilar because, you hit it, man. She is absolutely ruthless in this, and ruthless in like a bureaucratic way where she has everything on everybody.
Yeah.
She's like, I will hold this over you. I will hold this over you if you don't do what I say.
Yeah.
And if you don't do what I say, I'm either going to hold it against your family, I'm going to hold it against you personally, or I'm just going to blow you up.
Your head off. Yep. I'm going to blow your head off. Yeah.
Which is the ultimate card you can pull on somebody.
Yeah, the head explosion effect really gave me Boys vibes. It gave me PTSD from The Boys.
Spoilers, we do get a head being blown off in this, which I expected because you got that in the last one too.
Yeah, I don't think that's much of a big spoiler for the movie. We're not going to say who it is just yet, but it does happen, and I think you can really expect that. It's the Suicide Squad. Somebody would have to die. Yeah,
so kind of what else did you want to hit on, kind of generalities of this movie?
I mean, for me personally, just going down to that filmmaking, this movie is shot specifically just incredibly well. And a lot of that comes down to one thing that I know a lot of action films do. And I know one filmmaker that I like to talk about a lot is Christopher McQuarrie, that did the recent Mission Impossible movies, especially Mission Impossible Fallout, which is one of the best action movies over the last 10 years. It's moving the camera. It's such a simple thing, but it's such an effective thing. One thing that a lot of the Marvel movies don't do is they'll hold the shaky cam, but they won't really do pans. They won't do cuts. Like, they'll kind of just have a whole bunch of quick cuts to kind of mask, actors that really can't fight because they're actors. They're not fighters. And you kind of can mask it when you throw your stunt doubles in there. But it's not even in the actual fight scenes. It's just for normal filmmaking. I know when the film opens up, not really a spoiler either, but you see Savant first. That's the first character we see. And there's just a really good pan for, it's just going from right to left. It's just showing the injection right into an X-ray of showing the injection. Just little shots like that. It just really enhances the movie for me. It's amazing what they were able to do behind the camera.
Yeah, and it's a really tight movie too, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it doesn't really drag much, which
No.
I think is kind of a staple of James Gunn at this point.
Yeah.
Where a lot of his movies are very deliberate, despite the length. You see that with both Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Like it's just there's never a dull moment.
No.
There's a couple dull moments in this for me personally.
Yeah, I had some parts where it kind of slowed down a bit, but not in a way that you couldn't bounce back. And trust me, it did bounce back when we got to the third act.
Yeah, and it does a great job of it has this rhythm, like a cadence to it almost.
Yeah.
Like it's walking and talking and then it's an action piece. Then it's more walking and talking and it's another action piece. I really enjoyed the rhythm of the film because it keeps you invested when it does like that.
Yeah, because you're asking your characters to grow when you do something like that, because you can't grow through action 24/7, and you also can't grow from just sitting down and talking. Unless if you're an action film, you can't do that, because how are we supposed to kind of see these characters and how formidable they are as well?
Yeah, and you also can't exposition dump, right?
Yeah.
Which I think the 2016 movie was a victim of.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a trope in storytelling in general. They tell you show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that this movie does a great job of showing us, and I do kind of want to touch upon that opening sequence with Savant, where he kind of becomes like our point of view character for like the beginning of the movie. And speaking of the beginning of the movie, I think we are going to cut with the non-spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen The Suicide Squad, you can tune out now. It's cool. I won't be mad. Maybe fast forward to the end. Give me that finished episode play. But now we are going to dive into full spoiler mode for the rest of this episode.
Yes.
Spoiler cast for the Suicide Squad. And I did want to talk about that opening where Savant is kind of like our point of view character, right? So he's like, so this is the famous Suicide Squad, and the camera kind of follows him into that opening mission.
Right.
And
Anarchy.
Anarchy unfolds.
Full out anarchy. So let's just talk about the first team. So you have TDK. So TDK is the detachable kid.
Played by Nathan Fillion.
What a great cameo to get Nathan Fillion on top of that, but that should just tell you how bonkers this movie is. He pulled the detachable kid, arm fall off boy, I'm pretty sure is what the comic name was. That's just insane that he would bring it and it would be credible, where we wouldn't be like, oh, this is just stupid, I can't watch this. It's something where I'd be like, oh, I wonder what he's going to do. I wonder how formidable he is with his arms that he can detach and hit people with. And he's not. He's not
formidable at all, which is hilarious. Like, that's the gag, right? He finally pops his arms off and they move as slow as like regular arms.
Yeah, he's kind of like inching through, kind of like that covert op, and you think maybe he's about to do something
but then
insane.
he just kind of like slap boxes.
Yeah, and
with like a bunch of soldiers.
They're just blocking his blows, and it's hilarious.
And then they just riddle him with bullets.
Yeah, and then we have Mongal, who gets burned alive, absolutely burned alive. That's Mongol's sister. That's a pretty big DC Extended Universe DC comic character relationship, brother-sister relationship, but that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and she has this look about her, right?
Yeah.
When you first see her, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, she got the alien thing going on.
Yeah.
And you're like, what can she do?
Right.
Turns out she can fly, and that's about it.
Yeah.
She can fly. And she get burned alive.
Yeah, she got cooked. We also have Michael Rooker, as we were talking about, as Savant, just really a marksman, but might have some metahuman DNA. We don't know. Probably not, but you never know. It's the DCEU.
Never find out.
Yeah, you'll never find out because he did.
He is the victim of the bomb exploding in the head.
Yes.
He tries to bail after he witnesses the famous Suicide Squad just getting gunned down in all their glory, and he tries to turn and run, and Amanda Waller gives him 2 chances, and then she blows his head off.
Yeah, and it's
as gruesome as you expect.
Yeah, it is. And let's just talk about that real quick, because that's a big aspect of this film. This is a very gruesome film.
It's violent.
Yeah, and you kind of get that sense this is what James Gunn wanted to make. This is kind of what he's been...
Well, those are his roots, right?
Yeah, those are his roots, and this is what he wanted to make on the 20th Century Fox / Disney / Warner Brothers stage. He really was kind of given the free reins to do what he wanted, and you can tell that he did. And like I said before, coming from like that filmmaking aspect, he did what he wanted to do with the camera, he did what he wanted to do in the writer's room, he did what he wanted to do with these characters, and that helps this film. And then getting to, you have Weasel. Weasels can't swim. I gotta look that up. Can weasels swim?
I don't know if weasels can't swim, but I think that just speaks to the absolute hilarity of this situation and how kind of incompetent the people under Waller are.
Yeah.
Where he jumps out of the plane and he drowns immediately.
Yeah, and they're betting on these characters. I believe they say in the beginning, has Savant has TDK worked with Harley Quinn before? I've got $20 on Savant. And you can that goes to the Suicide Squad kind of thought process of this film. They don't really care about these people. They are criminals.
But that also brings me back to Rick Flag, right? And kind of what I was talking about earlier is that he gives a shit about this group of characters that he's just been saddled with. And you can tell that this is a Rick Flag, like I said, who comes from the 2016 version where he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And he kind of has the rhythm down.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, this is my team of misfits this time. You can tell that he's also probably lost a bunch of people too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Because if we're pulling characters that had only a couple appearances in the 60s, 70s, 80s, imagine the characters that he's also had throughout the years, because we never know. We probably won't ever see what happened in between 2016 and 2021. So just kind of having that ambiguity to kind of let your mind roam is pretty cool as well.
Speaking of heads getting blown off, Pete Davidson is in this.
Yeah, Pete Davidson of SNL fame is in this as Blackguard, and he is the very first death. He jumps over the kind of rock they're all hiding on. Besides Weasel, yeah. The Weasel can't swim. But yeah, he betrays the team because they are criminals, like I said. So he betrays the team. And I thought
that was a really good kind of story beat, too.
Yeah.
Was to be like, yeah, these guys are mostly still scumbags.
Yeah, they are. And that first team, it's fun. So another big spoiler, this is a 2-team. Do you think it kind of felt like a diversion almost, this first team? We don't really... Yeah. Some of them, the detachable kid was never going to do anything.
Yeah,
he didn't even have a gun.
It definitely felt like Waller set Rick Flag up to fail.
Yeah, because you knew the beaches were, and Corto Maltese is where the majority of this film takes place. You knew the majority of that, they would have the beaches guarded, so that
Not
first
just have
team,
the beaches guarded, but she also didn't necessarily give him any firepower.
No, she
besides
didn't.
His kind of... the two people that he has most familiarity with in Captain Boomerang and Harley Quinn, which I'm assuming, I feel like in the meta of the story, were not Waller's choices. I feel like Rick Flag was like, no, I want Harley, and I want Captain Boomerang. And because we've been through the ringer together.
Yeah, you got to think if Boomerang's been in jail for that long, that he's been with Rick Flag for a little bit now, because it seems like he said, you came back, Harles, like, you got arrested again. She's just like, I got arrested again. So you got to think that Boomerang's probably been there the most. And he's kind of making fun
of like everyone else on the team. And he's like, you're not gonna last. Like, you suck.
What's the line he used? I believe he said we're sitting in a freezer, like one of the sport freezers. So no, that was great stuff. But next death up was
Captain Boomerang.
Captain Boomerang is dead. So that is the end of Jai Courtney in the DCEU. Play taps for him. Yeah,
F in the chat.
Yeah, F in the chat for
Captain Boomerang.
Yeah,
who gets off some cool stuff.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. We kind of see those trick arrows that we've been promised.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, say what you will about the Arrowverse, but their Captain Boomerang was using some trick arrows. Yeah.
Yeah, like he had kind of like an energy boomerang that he threw and like sawed a guy's head off, and then very unceremoniously he gets impaled by like tree branches.
Yes,
and then a helicopter rolls over him.
Yeah,
and just turns him into mush.
Yeah. We also have the javelin. Flugelborg. I love Flugelborg. Have you ever seen any of the interviews he's done? He's been on Conan. That guy's hilarious. He's a gem.
Yeah, just a great get. Like, this whole cast is just amazing from top to bottom. Yeah. Like, they got these kind of famous people to just die in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, you want to put on a goofy costume and die?
Yeah, they played that Deadpool 2 Brad Pitt death scene up to 11, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really great. And I kind of wanted to talk about like this meta narrative, right? That James Gunn essentially sends the 2016 team to get obliterated.
Yep.
Kind of saying like, hey, this is a new Suicide Squad.
Yeah. And you feel it. You feel that this is a new era. This is a new filmmaker. This is a completely different film than the last one. And it's okay to forget. You don't want to necessarily forget, but it's okay to forgive and kind of just look past it. It happened.
But also, Rick Flag and Harley survive this, right?
Yes,
this
they do.
beach assault.
Yes, they do. Harley kind of gets the treatment. Like she gets a really good deal. Rick Flag also got a really good deal. Maybe they all should have tried to survive the beach because they probably
they should have tried surviving.
Yeah, I mean Javelin just got shot to death. Blackguard got his face blown off. But
yeah, which kind of leads us to quote unquote Team 2.
Yeah,
which kind of becomes our main team.
Yes.
So this is like the heavy hitters. Like Waller stacked this team.
Yeah, she did. Oh yeah.
So it's Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, who is kind of like the Deadshot replacement.
Yeah, and I kind of put here too. He really feels at some aspects of this film. I know this is a team film, but he kind of feels like Star-Lord in the fact, and kind of Harley in Birds of Prey, where this is a Bloodsport movie almost trapped inside of a Suicide Squad movie. Mm-hmm. He is the main character, so that's probably the biggest spoiler for right now. He is the main character of this film. The narrative flows through him. As much as I said that the emotional narrative flows through Ratcatcher, he is the main character of this film.
Yeah, so then we get Ratcatcher, who we alluded to earlier.
Yes.
We get King Shark, played by Sly Stallone. Amazing.
Yes. Nanawe, what a great casting that was to grab Sylvester Stallone. Like the whole film was just casted up and down of just, like you said, just people to die, but it just worked every single time. So he kind of
does like the Groot thing, right?
Yeah.
Where he's like the big dumb musclehead of the group.
With some heart.
Speaking of big dumb muscleheads.
Yep.
Peacemaker.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Polka Dot Man. Okay. So Peacemaker's in this film, played by the notorious John Cena. Is this his best role? This might be some of my favorite acting that he's ever done.
I think you're discounting the Marine a little bit.
I could be. This is Rob's plug to tell everybody to go watch The Marine, but he's got some really great scenes in this movie. It's funny because you're expecting a lot of comedy, and then the James Gunn thing to do is pull you back and say, here's some drama, and those more dark, emotional moments of this film, John Cena really actually shines with his acting, and it's
funny
amazing.
because this comes off the heels of, he's kind of had a big couple months, right? So he's a main character in Fast and Furious. Yep. So here we are, 3 weeks in a row.
Yes, 3 weeks in a row.
We made it to Fast and Furious.
If this is a Bloodsport films trapped in Suicide Squad, this is a Fast and Furious podcast.
But he's like the villain in that, and we're going to jump ahead a little bit to make my point here. He's kind of a tertiary villain in this.
Yes, he is.
And, man, when he makes that turn...
Yeah.
It is brutal to watch.
You feel it.
Like, so he's this character that's built upon truth, justice, and the American way, right? But American way in the worst possible, and some might argue the most realistic way possible.
Yeah, he's really John... If John Walker was even worse, he would be Peacemaker. He is the worst case scenario.
I was watching that movie, and I actually thought, I was like, man, John Cena is U.S. agent.
He is U.S. agent. He really is. And I'm glad that we're going to see him in his own television show on HBO Max as Peacemaker returning. And, man, John Cena really shows you that Waller kind of has this power hold on everybody else, too. I know Peacemaker, it's drilled into his head. We don't really see his past, which I believe we're going to see in the Peacemaker show. But we really know that Waller's got this stranglehold on this team, and she knows that I will make you do whatever I need to. And Joel Kinnaman, as Rick Flag kind of says, hey, she always comes with a backup plan, and that was it. And that's why Peacemaker turned into that villain.
Right, and Peacemaker is kind of like, as much as you say, like, she has this hold over people, she doesn't really seem to have a hold over him. Like, he kind of feels like he wants to be doing what he's doing.
True.
You know, in one way, she kind of gaslights him in a way of being like, because she knows that he's like all about the mission.
Yeah.
And all about like protecting America's kind of image, which is what the mission is ultimately about, is protecting America's image. So, yeah, she uses that against him, but at the same time, he's more than willing to carry that out.
Yeah.
In the most violent black and white way possible.
Yeah, it's almost like a mental illness that he's got drilled into his head, kind of coming from that military background that he has. Like, it's America first, like, it's the mission first, and it really kind of kills him in the end. Like, it kills his mental capacity to care about anybody. Even
he breaks.
Yeah, he does break. And spoilers, I know we're already in the spoiler cast, but like, this is a pretty big one. He does survive. So we get to a scene which we're going to talk about because it's actually a really amazing scene towards the end of the film, right before the big villain versus the team, which is just insane. Where he does get shot by Bloodsport, and and
in the throat,
and you think he's dead.
And a building falls on him.
And a building does fall on him, and they say in the post-credit scene, there is a post-credit scene, so if you're in the theater, make sure you stay. If you're at home, just grab a drink, and then just come back. He does survive that, and they said he's a tough guy. And one thing I was thinking about after I watched that post-credit scene, that's a really great place to start his character arc, because he really didn't go on much of an arc, but that's expected, because he's, like we said, he's set in these ways of being like that U.S. agent almost. So the Peacemaker show can really show that there is a turn that he's going to make, because Ratcatcher kind of caught him for a second. I believe she kind of made him think about his choices for a second.
Yeah, so we have to back up a little bit. So basically the mission for Bloodsport's team is to erase basically the traces of American involvement in what is called Project Starfish.
Right. And before that, it's more destroy any trace of Project Starfish. Once we get later in the narrative, that's when it gets to the reveal. It's a pretty big reveal that it's America that had the involvement in Project Starfish, and they kind of had it on the grounds of Corto Maltese, so it wouldn't be an international incident. That's where you get to the conflict between Peacemaker and the rest of the Suicide Squad.
Particularly Rick Flag.
Mm-hmm.
So Rick Flag is rescued by Bloodsport's team in an absolutely bonkers action sequence where Bloodsport and Peacemaker really get to show off their kind of chops. I mean, the whole team gets to show off their chops, really. You see King Shark eat a guy. We just see the trailer.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from. Polka Dot Man drops a watchtower.
Yeah, he does.
Cuts the legs off of a watchtower and kills a couple guys. But that whole action set piece is to kind of show off how dangerous and efficient both Peacemaker and Bloodsport are.
Yeah.
And they end up rescuing Rick Flag in a really hilarious sequence where he's just like playing cards.
Yeah. So like you said, that scene was it was amazing, just because you kind of see, like you said, this team is efficient. There's a reason why she didn't have this team go on the beach, because she even if they went on that beach, they probably would have survived, but that diversion to get them into the jungle was genius. And that just shows you how effective Amanda Waller and her tactics are. But man, it's really the gun measuring, we'll say. I'm not going to say the other thing. It's the gun measuring contest. It's kill for kill. And we talk about this film being gruesome. They pull off some of the craziest kills in this scene. They're shooting a man and he explodes. Peacemaker pulls out a sword and just starts chopping down everybody. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
Bloodsport has like a one-armed like bow and arrow.
Oh yeah. Can we talk about Bloodsport's costume?
Sick.
I need that.
Super sick.
I need to get that.
He's got the Iron Man nanotech weaponry.
Yeah.
Where he pulls pieces off of himself and he builds a gun, and then he pulls more pieces off and he gets a bigger gun. It's like a video game.
Oh my gosh,
he just keeps upgrading his weapon.
Yeah, and Idris Elba, I can't say enough about Idris Elba, and I just want to go back a little bit because I know we kind of jumped the gun a bit to
jump the gun.
Yeah, jump the gun. We go back to the first appearance of Bloodsport. So we see him on the beach, and then we go back and we kind of learn a little bit about his backstory. So you find out
how he ended up there.
Yeah. So you find out that he is in Bel Rev prison, and we kind of don't know why he's there, and that's fine. That's one thing I love. That ambiguity. Was he not there
for putting Superman in the ICU?
Oh, I didn't watch the trailers. I did watch the trailers.
Is that not why he's there?
I mean, he might have, done a hit and run like Harley, but that's what they say.
But Superman in that universe probably deserved it.
Don't talk about Henry Cavill that way. I don't understand.
But Superman's kind of a dick.
Is he?
Kinda.
Is he, or was he portrayed that way?
I mean, is there much of a difference?
I guess not, but let's just leave the Superman slander.
Yeah.
Yes, he is in there because he put Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet. But it makes sense, and it kind of just shows you, that's a great line. I kind of wrote in here, too. It's a great line, because what it does, it shows you how dangerous Bloodsport is by himself, and he has a tragic backstory.
And that's one of the biggest problems I had with the 2016 movie, right, is the premise that Amanda Waller literally lays out in that movie is we need a team just in case Superman flies into the White House and kidnaps the president or kills the president or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then they got Slipknot.
That team is not the team I'm sending to stop Superman.
No, I'm sending this team because...
I would send this team to go up against Superman.
Yeah, huge jump forward to possibly one of the most bombastically insane third acts in any superhero movie. The Suicide Squad fights Starro the Conqueror. Of all comic book characters that they could have grabbed for, they fought Starro the Conqueror, and they held their own. There's a reason, like you said, why this team would be the team to kind of fight Superman. Yeah, one of the members took them down.
Yeah.
What can all five do? Yeah.
And then going back to Bloodsport's kind of beginning of this movie, he's kind of portrayed as like the good inmate.
Yeah.
He's doing the cleaning. He doesn't really want to deal with anybody else
Yeah.
there. And then, sure enough, you go back to that ruthlessness of Amanda Waller. Ropes him in, using his family against him.
Great shot by James Gunn and their cinematographer, too. Like that little, like, zoom cut right when he puts the knife or the pen up to her neck. Just, you know, getting a little off topic just to kind of highlight what James Gunn really did. But, yeah, like I said, Bloodsport really is the main character, and you have that hilarious scene with his daughter and him just yelling at each other, just F you, like, I hate you. She goes, like, you're not mad at me for stealing, you're mad at me because I got caught, just to show that they are criminals, like we keep alluding to. They are bad. They're not bad people. And Ratcatcher kind of says, you're not a bad person, but you've done bad things. And a lot of that goes down to a really great scene that I definitely want to get to when they're all on the bus. And that every James Gunn film has this. They all have that scene where they slow down and you really kind of get the waterworks going, and you just see this is where Ratcatcher kind of comes from. But we hear that Bloodsport's father might be one of the worst fathers in the entire universe.
Bloodsport's dad. Bad dad.
Bad dad.
Peacemaker's dad. Bad dad.
Bad dad. Another bad dad. Is everybody the only good dad is Ratcatcher's dad?
Well, yeah.
I mean, to go to the Superman point, Jonathan Kent kind of did kill himself when he could have had Superman. That's beside the point. I still love Man of Steel, but that's.
And they also, going back to that jungle scene, they kind of plant the seeds of this kind of impending conflict between Peacemaker and Bloodsport. Yeah. You kind of feel like that's going to come to a head eventually. Yeah. And it does. It pays off.
And it's right from the first time they see each other. He even makes the joke, are you kidding me? You just said that there's nobody else like you with a gun. And then you just bought me Peacemaker, who is me with a gun, essentially. You said no two members are alike, but we're exactly alike. And she kind of knew, Peacemaker's not a leader. You are a leader. That's what makes you guys different.
But also, I think she kind of deceived Bloodsport in that moment, too. Yeah. Where Peacemaker's on the team to be her ace in the hole. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, Peacemaker's there to ensure that the real mission, gets accomplished. Yeah. Like, I think she knew all this going in. Oh, my gosh. So that's why she deployed Peacemaker to be like, listen, I'm afraid that I'm going to have some people with morals.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really shows you that Peacemaker, Waller, this whole idea of that Suicide Squad, it kind of goes against what the true Suicide Squad I have in here. Like, there's like the Suicide Squad that's being presented to us and like probably more efficient, but then there's the true Suicide Squad that really can be a hero team if they wanted to. And like what I said, and I kind of want to talk about Ratcatcher for a bit, that's where Ratcatcher comes into play. Like, people aren't innately bad. They're taught bad things, and bad things happen to them to kind of get them there. But after the jungle scene, we kind of go on the full mission. So before we talk about Ratcatcher, let's just talk about Polka Dot Man real quick. That's a tragic backstory, and you kind of get a little bit more scope in the DCEU, which I thought was pretty cool. Bad moms, bad dads. We find out that Polka Dot Man's mom was experimenting on them. She was a Star Labs scientist, so shout out Star Labs. I got the Star Labs sweatshirt on right now. Sweatshirt. Yeah,
you cape for Polka Dot's mom in this movie.
Yeah, and I think on Twitter I have Polka Dot Man as my header on Twitter. Like, I just love that character. But you just see this whole team is built on tragedy, and that just it's the James Gunn way. You build a team on tragedy, tragic backstories. I mean, when the Guardians of the Galaxy meet each other in one, they're in a prison, like, with all these things that they did that were wrong. So, yeah, man. We get to that jungle scene. We get a little bit after it, and is that when we see Harley? I believe that's when we see Harley. So
the other shoe drops, right? So, like we mentioned up top, Rick Flag and Harley get captured by the Cordo Maltesian army.
You don't know it, and Harley doesn't know it.
Right. So Bloodsport's team bails Rick Flag out. Spoiler alert, again, Rick Flag is rescued by freedom fighters. Yes. And Peacemaker and Bloodsport kill them all.
Yeah, that's a great just piece of writing, a great misdirect. And it's just that kind of, cannon fodder for the team to kill so they can show their powers, but just the rug pulled out.
Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Like these idiots. Yeah. Idiots that I deal with. Yeah. I'm sorry on behalf of these idiots that you had to lose all these people.
Yeah, and it's a great moment, a hilarious moment, and like we said before, it just shows you this team is capable.
And the other thing I liked was the Rick Flag Bloodsport thing, right? Yeah. So instead of being like, oh, this guy, screw this guy. Right. They're like friends.
Yeah, it's kind of a trope almost. It's Nick Fury and Tony Stark kind of had the same thing at first. It was and they didn't really break it. I just think it got to the point where Tony kind of respected Nick, and Nick knew that Tony wasn't just this kind of kid that just had toys. He was a man that kind of grew up. Rick Flag and Bloodsport have that same. They don't have that. They're, like you said, they're friends, and
they serve together.
And hopefully if we see Bloodsport beyond this, which I think Idris Elba would definitely come back and do something on HBO Max or in a film, I definitely want to see that camaraderie that they had that kind of made Bloodsport, because that just, like we said, goes back to that point about Ratcatcher talking about Bloodsport. You're not a bad person. You've just done bad things. You're a good man. You've just seen a lot, and your father kind of put into your head that you need to be this perfect soldier.
So Rick Flag hooks up with this group, and he's like, listen, I know we have our mission, but Harley's my girl.
Yeah.
Like, that's my friend, and we have to go rescue her.
Mm-hmm.
So Harley ends up in the mansion of, like, a Corto Maltesian dignitary.
Yeah.
Like the president.
Right, Luna.
Yeah.
Luna.
Yeah, the president of Corto Maltese, who achieved his status through a military coup, overthrew and murdered the residing family of Corto Maltese, and he's like this ruthless dictator, and he wines and dines Harley Quinn, and you're like, oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Like a psychopathic lunatic is whining and dining Harley Quinn. And then they lean heavily into that Birds of Prey thing.
Yeah.
Where it seems like it's working. And then he makes this really passing comment about what Project Starfish is, what Jotunheim is. And he says, all my opposition is going to get thrown in there. Women, children. And Harley just is like, I'm out.
Yep. Shoots him.
Kills him dead.
Luna.
Kills him dead.
Yeah. So she kills Luna, and I love the monologue that she kind of gave. And then, like you said, that kind of breaks down Birds of Prey that it need to be. Like, that's how kind of retroactively Thor 2 kind of helped Avengers Endgame. This retroactively, Birds of Prey helped this because she understood I'm an independent woman, and I need to understand I don't need this kind of powerful man to help me with this. Like, I am Harley Quinn. Like, I'm ferocious. Like, I am formidable.
I'm arguably the most dangerous person in any room that I'm in.
She is. If there's no metahumans in the room, she really could hold her own against probably a litany of characters as well.
And boy, do we see that.
Yeah, and this gets to my favorite action set piece in this film.
Mine too.
Yeah, this is where she kind of breaks out of the prison. So she kills Luna, they lock her up, and then we see her break out of the prison. She first snaps the dude's neck. She lifts him up with her legs, snaps his neck, and then we get just an amazing sequence of her really just proving why Harley Quinn is one of the most dangerous people in the whole DCEU.
Yeah, it's great. She picks up some machine guns and just goes to work.
Yeah.
And this is a really cool bit, which is also in the trailers, where she's firing these machine guns and there's like this psychedelic kind of flowery thing happening around her.
Yeah, and
it's like a point of view shot.
Yeah, and I love what it does too, is it kind of shows you that imagery that James Gunn just puts upon Harley Quinn of, you kind of get a look into her mind almost. Like she said in a funny throwaway line in the 2016 version is the voices in my head, like the voices they weren't talking to me this time, but they were before. Like, we don't really know. She got affected by those chemicals at the Ace
She's twisted.
warehouse. Yeah, she is still a twisted human being.
And she revels in violence.
Yeah, she does. And it was just brutal, absolutely brutal. She was just smashing a guy's head with the grate just over and over again. She picked up the javelin, and I kind of love how the javelin turned into like one of the big MacGuffins of this film. Like the javelin just being kind of just this
and her not knowing what it means.
Yeah, she just doesn't know what it means. It's like kind of the Ark of the Covenant almost. Like, it's just kind
She's
of
like, why did he give me this?
Yeah, like what does this do? Like, it's kind of like the mother box of this film, but no, it's great. But she finally meets back up with the rest of the Suicide Squad,
which turns out to not be a rescue operation.
It's not.
They think it's a rescue operation. It's not.
She says, I can go back. We can do this again.
What you see in the trailer. That's one of the kind of things that bummed me out, is a lot of the kind of comedic bits kind of got spoiled in the trailers.
Yeah, it did. True. That's very true.
Which is not the movie's fault.
No, and you got to sell the movie still. You got to sell it as a James Gunn movie, and a big thing of James Gunn is how he balances that kind of comedy with heart. And to talk about heart, we just got to rewind a little bit to before they pick up Harley, they go on a mission. First and foremost, R.I.P. Milton. I know it's a little bit in the future, but justice for Milton. That's my big kind of PSA for the entire episode.
Random bus driver, food delivery man, gun-toting regular guy.
Yeah.
That's just there in the background. and dies very unceremoniously.
Yeah, he does. But before that, when we first meet Milton and they kind of all meet up together, this is after Flag and the Freedom Fighters meet up with the true Suicide Squad. We go on the mission, and it's to get the Thinker. So we find out kind of that the Thinker...
Played by Doctor Who's own.
Yeah.
Doctor Who himself.
Yep. And we get
Peter Capaldi.
Great. This cast, man. This cast is great. But we find out that in order for them to kind of stop Jotunheim, the only way that they're going to get in is to get the Thinker. And the Thinker is he's been working on Project Starfish for X amount of years, and I think we can pass the time by the amount of antennas that he has in his head, the big Thinker staple. That's one of my bigger issues with this film is the Thinker. What I think they could have done is just combine Luna and the Thinker and just made him, maybe what they could have done is maybe combine them in the way of, you find out that Luna turns out to be the Thinker. Like
that'd be cool.
He puts the things on his head. He just grows his intellect. But my biggest issue with the Thinker,
he seems so out of place in this.
He didn't think. He didn't think. He didn't use. I mean, he did, but he really didn't in camera think. He didn't use.
And that ultimately is his undoing. Is that he didn't think.
Yeah, he didn't.
He tried to appeal to this extraterrestrial starfish from space.
Yeah,
and it does not work.
It's just a very human, normal person, something that Luna easily could have done and died as well doing. They could, like I said, they could have just, those two characters, Luna was fine, Thinker wasn't that great, but if they just combined them, they probably could have shaved a little bit of time. This isn't a super long movie. It's only 2 hours and 10 minutes, about 2:12, but that's the one thing. The Thinker was kind of my biggest negative about this movie.
That's what I said coming out too, is that Thinker piece, when they're on the mission to get the Thinker, kind of dragged for me a little bit. There's a great action set piece in a Humvee between Peacemaker, Bloodsport, Rick Flag, and some soldiers, which is really cool.
Yeah, and that's where we get to, if the Harley Quinn sequence was the best action moment of the film, then we get to the best emotional moment of the film. So they are all on the bus, and like we talked a little bit about before, this is where we get Ratcatcher's origin and we get Bloodsport's origin. So we already kind of touched on it before. Bloodsport's father was abusive towards him. He essentially wanted to make this perfect soldier, this guy that can go out there and kind of do his bidding, maybe. We don't really know. Like I said, hopefully we kind of see it. But Ratcatcher, surprise cameo by Taika Waititi. He's the DCEU's original Ratcatcher. And we find out that he instilled these great morals in his daughter. He's a really great dad. And what happens is, she kind of says the line like they considered the rats a weapon, and that kind of gets to one of the bigger ideals of this movie. And one of the biggest parts is nobody's a throwaway. It's the Suicide Squad, and the Suicide Squad are kind of the rats. They're these criminals that get thrown in prison that can be used to die or live and just complete these missions as a hit squad, but they matter. The Suicide Squad, the last team, once you get to the end of the film, you care about each and every single one of those characters, maybe outside of Peacemaker, depending on your love for John Cena, but you care about every single one of these characters. You care about Polka Dot Man. You really care about King Shark. And you just see him sitting in the bus just talking, man. They're just talking about how life kind of sucks and how they're thrown on these missions and how we really should be more, what's the point I'm trying to make? I'm trying to be more like... Accepting almost. Yeah, kind of like a little bit more accepting of who we are. That you shouldn't hate yourself. Like it's kind of like we all come from these bad upbringings. Like she says, like, we used to get covered in rats so we wouldn't freeze to death. Like, you got thrown in a freezer or in like a kind of like just like a box by your father with starving rats. Like, we all have these bad upbringings. But
and her humanity shows early on too is she's the one who kind of befriends King Shark.
Yeah.
Where everyone looks at him as like this freak of nature who can't be trusted because he's a shark man wearing a bathing suit. But she's like, no, like, he just wants friends.
Yeah, he does. And that's why she is the emotional core. She's my favorite character in this film. She shows you that from each character to Polka Dot Man, understanding the relationship with his mother to her relationship with her father.
She's like the empath of the group.
Yeah, she is.
Like, she really understands like everyone's struggles.
Yeah.
Which is when you get to the assault on Jotunheim, which is great on so many levels. So eventually we find out that the American government is essentially behind this whole thing, right? And Amanda Waller gives strict orders to erase America's involvement in Project Starfish, and Rick Flag is like, nah, Like, no.
Yep.
No. Like, we need to be held accountable for this. You need to be held accountable for this. And that's what, this is when Rick Flag really elevates to being, like, my favorite. And he becomes, like, the beating heart of the Suicide Squad. Quite literally.
Yeah, he does.
And he's ready to go pretty much AWOL on the Suicide Squad thing in order to give this information up. And that's where Amanda Waller pulls her ace in the hole.
Yep.
And she's 6 Peacemaker on Rick Flag. And they have a brutal fight.
Yeah, brutal is an understatement, man. This fight starts out with possibly my favorite shot in this whole film. So Peacemaker, so what happens is, I love the jump cuts that he kind of uses. It's the first team in the first act, the first team dies, and then it just cuts back. You get to Jotunheim and it cuts back. You get to them planting the bombs in Jotunheim, or planting the bombs, and then you get to the Peacemaker fight, and then it kind of throws back to like where the other team is, like the other team on the mission is. But this scene, the building starts coming down, you find out the bombs kind of went off prematurely, and Peacemaker's helmet is just kind of on the ground, and then you just see Rick Flag pull a shard out of his stomach, and you see Peacemaker get up, and it's blow for blow. They are not holding anything back. There's a moment where John Cena just picks him up and just throws him into like a hay bale almost. I don't know what it is. He just throws him into it. They're punching each other. They're like, all the blows you feel. And that's one thing that sometimes the Marvel movies kind of pull back on, and I understand it's a PG-13 movie. All your blows don't hit, but each and every single hit they were taking, you felt every single one of them. Yeah, and
then Peacemaker lands the fatal blow.
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat
style, man.
X-rays him.
Yeah,
and that's what I was kind of alluding to about Rick Flag being like the beating heart of that team, and you literally see the life in his heart go out because it zooms in on that shard of plaster or whatever
just from
it was,
the sink or whatever, from the shower.
And Peacemaker kills Rick Flag, and Ratcatcher witnesses that.
Yeah,
and
Peacemaker, what a joke. Big line.
That line, when he said that, gave me chills.
Yeah, it's gone. And then you get to see, like you said, you see Ratcatcher see Peacemaker, and he has to make a decision, and he doesn't really he has his mind made up, and that's where we get to that moment of her touching each and every character. She even got to him, a person that seemingly can't be broken from his morality. She shows him a bit of humanity, and that kind of sways his morality for a second, but he snaps right back. And that's what makes that Peacemaker character really great is, man, he can't change. He is really just set in his ways.
And then Bloodsport swoops in and shoots him.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool because, like I alluded to earlier, they kind of set up this conflict between Peacemaker and Bloodsport, and they don't have that Rick Flag Peacemaker drag out fight.
No.
They literally each fire a gun, and Bloodsport wins out.
Yeah.
He kills Peacemaker.
And it's a throwback comment just alluding to before in the movie, Peacemaker makes a joke, I use smaller bullets than you, my bullets will just go right through your bullets, and then Bloodsport kind of using that nanotechnology possibly crafts a smaller bullet just last minute and just shoots a smaller bullet and just hits him right in the throat and seemingly kills him.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it kills him until the post-credit scene.
Right.
And so you kind of get your human antagonist out of the way and paves way for Starro the Conqueror, who should be goofy.
He should be goofy.
But is terrifying.
It's terrifying to see.
It skews me out.
It was weird, right? I thought it was just me. He's weird looking, like just his limbs opening up to see. He raises up his arm and then just the little kind of copies of himself kind of drop down, and just once again, just being somebody that reads comics, just seeing the actual panels from comic books come to life is just insane. Like, I'm just kind of talking about the Starros, the miniature Starros just covering the faces of all those people.
That part is so terrifying.
It is scary. They're all taken over, and you don't know if they're just going to attack them because they're all surrounded. They're surrounded at the moment, and you don't know if they're going to attack them, what's going to happen, and you kind of stop, and then this is where you get the true Suicide Squad. It is Rick Flag's gone, Peacemaker's gone, so it is Bloodsport led with Harley Quinn, King Shark, Polka Dot Man, and Ratcatcher 2. And this team is one of my favorite superhero teams in a film that I can think of.
And they go to, because Starro breaks out of Jotunheim, and he's like, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
But I'm just killing everybody now.
Tragic villain. Surprisingly tragic villain.
Yeah, Starro.
Yeah, he even gives a great line at the end where he says, I was happy floating in space looking at the stars. I was happy before this.
and they go to run in, and this is where frickin' Amanda Waller comes in.
Yeah.
And she's like, that is not the mission. It's not our problem. Kind of a flaw, because it's going to become your problem if this world-conquering starfish decides to keep conquering. Presumably he would.
True, but it kind of goes back to that line where, like I said, he's a tragic villain. Even the Thinker said, I dubbed him Star of the Conqueror, just going to that point of, this was put upon you. Like, the leadership was put upon Bloodsport. That title was put on Starro of the Conqueror. Like he said, I was happy out in space, just drifting. I still
feel like it's going to become America's problem.
You think so at one point?
I think so. So, I don't exactly understand her logic behind that. I guess, like, she's just so mission-focused and making herself look good. But
that was the thing. She even said, "I've got to go play golf with the senator later. I got to make sure my form's good." Just not caring about anything.
But then her
else.
office staff steps up.
Yeah, great scene where they seemingly they knock her out, and then they all kind of take charge and do the good thing, and that turns into, I'm going to call this 5, because you get the original, they get the first team, then you get the second team with Rick Flag and Peacemaker added on, and then this is the true Suicide Squad. This team has all their glory. This is where you get the Bloodsport scene, I'll call this one, where he puts the gun together. He kind of is, like she said, I'm going to turn you into a leader, and he does become one. He had Harley take the high ground. This is episode 3 of the podcast.
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith.
It's over, Starro. I have the high ground.
He tells Harley to take the high ground. You have one of the funniest moments from the movie, where he looks at Polka Dot Man and he says, "Look up. You know who that is? That's your mom." Just a great, hilarious moment. Tells King Shark that monster's Nom Nom, and King Shark's kind of confused.
It's the very, like, Hulk smash moment from like the Avengers.
Yeah, he's Captain America in that moment. Yeah,
and King Shark is the Hulk.
Yeah,
and King Shark kind of is like the Hulk analog in this. He's basically bulletproof.
Yeah, he is.
There's a moment where he's just getting riddled with bullets.
Yeah.
And he just gets up and he's just real mad.
Yeah, and then he just bites a guy's head off and just starts chewing on. I love when he comes back and he's just waving to the team as he comes back. But yeah, that scene, I love that big, like, comic splash page of Starro the Conqueror versus the Suicide Squad. You never in a million years would ever think you would get something that
and
crazy.
And in lesser hands, that can come across as real hokey.
It can.
But it's not in this.
And like we said, and that's kind of where this all comes to a head, is this team is very capable, very formidable, very strong. Polka Dot Man takes off a piece of a building tall Starro's leg. King Shark jumps up and is literally ripping off pieces of Starro. Harley Quinn dives straight into Starro's eye. With the javelin. That was the purpose, was to take down Starro the Conqueror with the javelin.
Payoff.
Yeah, the javelin payoff.
I think she even says it at some point when she's like, this is the purpose.
Yeah.
This is it. And
Bloodsport just on the ground. And then the rat catcher scene. That, just the emotional payoff of the entire film was her and Taika Waititi, where you see a flashback of her with the original Ratcatcher, and they're on the top of the building. And where were they? They were in
Portugal?
Portugal, I believe.
Yeah, I think she says Portugal.
Yeah, and it's just that kind of line where they talk about if a rat can be, what was the line? It was almost, what was it? It was,
I forget.
It's like, the whole point is, like...
Come on, man, I thought you took notes.
I did take notes, but I'm not scrolling fast enough. That's the issue. Basically, all it means is that everybody... It's kind of like everybody matters. That's what it is. Like, this ragtag group of villains matters, and they can really change, because Bloodsport was even going to leave, and then he's like, "Oh crap, I can't leave these people." Like, his daughter, same thing. He's just like, "I don't care about you. You got caught. You're kind of stupid. And then you would do this to my daughter." Like, he doesn't even know that he's like this. But then that Ratcatcher scene, the same thing, that we really can affect a little bit of change. And you see the true power of Ratcatcher, who is also, if Harley is one of the regular formidable people, Ratcatcher, I don't want to... She
turns up.
Yeah, she goes...
summons thousands of rats.
Yeah, just... a whole island, and that's a small island. Imagine what she can do with a bigger antenna. Just the entire population of rats on the entire Earth. They just take over Starro. You get a great just visual scene of Harley just inside kind of Starro, which is kind of like just water. She's kind of floating in like... inside
like his like membrane.
Yeah, his membrane of his... Yeah, and just kind of floating there. And they
kills him.
Yeah, kills him.
Him dead.
They take down Starro, and they take down everybody else effectively. And yeah.
And then Bloodsport becomes that leader that Waller wanted him to be when he's like, "I'm going to table this. this whole America thing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to table it. You just got to let us be done.
Yeah.
And Waller's like, I knew it. I knew you'd do it. Congratulations.
Yeah.
This was my plan all along. Whether that's true or not, I think she's just kind of saving face a little.
Yeah.
Because I think her true plan was probably for Peacemaker to wipe them all out.
Oh my god. Yeah, you got to think that she probably didn't want, even if Rick Flag survived, she was just going to have everybody just die. She didn't really need...
I think she wanted to get rid of Flag.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
she sets him up in that ambush.
Yeah. Yeah, she probably didn't necessarily want Harley, but she understands Harley can hold her own anywhere, so she threw her in there. All that first team was just meant to die, so the second team can get in there.
She was probably sick of Rick Flag's shit over the last 5 years.
Sure. I mean, sure, he probably pulled some stuff. Like I said, we haven't seen him for 5 years. There was probably a lot of stuff he was pulling. He was starting to kind of lean maybe to a more, in her eyes, radical, which is not radical.
And he was never a bad guy, right?
No.
Like, even in the 2016 version, he was the guy overseeing the prison.
He's just a military leader. That's all
guy.
he is. He didn't commit any crimes, per se. So,
No.
yeah. But
So
overall...
he was kind of always, like, morally not good,
Yeah.
but he's following orders, but... He's like Peacemaker with a conscience.
Yeah.
Like following orders, but to a point.
Right.
Like I'll follow orders until I see some real sketchy stuff going on, and then I'm going to do the right thing, which is ultimately what gets him killed.
Yeah. But yeah, man, overall, just... I just can't say enough about this movie, man. This was definitely a surprise for a lot of people.
Surprise for me.
Yeah, I was scrolling through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever it may have you, and just a lot of positive feedback from this movie amongst a lot of everybody almost. It was just a lot of positivity came from this film. Just a lot of just greatness came from this film. You got to see a filmmaker that's had a lot of stuff happen to him in the last couple of years, and kind of holding in the balance of Disney for a little bit, and Warner Brothers picked him up at the perfect moment, and it worked, man. Like we said, almost everything about this movie worked. There's not a lot that didn't work.
Yeah, and I mean, we've kind of talked over the last 2 weeks in kind of the movies that we've talked about and the TV shows that we've talked about. Story is king, and characters are what elevates your story. And the characters absolutely shine in this movie. The main cast, once you get past all the disposable units and you get to that main cast of characters, front to back, top to bottom, they're all three-dimensional.
Yeah.
They have depth to them. You understand all of their motivations.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't speak about King Shark enough. King Shark even gets a scene where they're in Jotunheim and he kind of sees these like sea creatures that are in a tank, and he's just kind of just a beautifully scored piece too, just a nice bit of music right there. But he's kind of just running around. You kind of get to go into the mind of, he doesn't really, you kind of got to think did he really commit a crime? Just the way that you kind of get this sense. I don't really know if he really committed any crimes or if he's just an animal of nature that just needed to be contained. And that would be pretty sad too. And maybe he did something that's beyond his nature that really just shows you that, like I said, these emotional characters that really get 3 dimensions in them.
Yeah, I think it was in a Chris Rock stand-up, I believe it was Chris Rock, where he talks about a tiger attacking somebody and people being outraged at the tiger. He's like, well, the tiger's gonna tiger.
Yeah, that's his nature.
Which, it feels like King Shark kind of the same thing. Like, he's kind of like this hybrid person shark thing.
It's Nanawe. So just a little bit of background. I know he debuted in Superboy issue 0 in the 90s, and it was more, he was the son of a shark god. He was like half human, half shark. So
yeah,
Amanda Waller kind of alludes to it. She kind of says like, we don't know, but like the legend is that he's half, and I just love how it just goes quickly to like, you think this half shark, half human, like god being, and then it just goes to him reading a book upside down.
And he's very like simple.
Yeah, he is simple, but that's one thing that just kind of elevates his character, is that
but also has shark instincts.
He does. And he's just he just wants friends. That's it. He just wants to be loved and have friends. It's simple. He's a simpleton, and that's what makes his character lovable, because you want him to have friends, and that's what I got to in the third act. Every single character amongst them you cared about. Polka Dot Man you cared about with his mother. Who dies.
By the way.
Yeah, Polka Dot Man sadly bites the bullet. He's a superhero. He should be with the Flash. He should be running the streets of Central City, but sadly he is gone.
He's crushed to death.
Yes, he does. Yes, he is. But yeah, every character, Harley Quinn, before, she kind of gets that payoff from Birds of Prey, and now she is.
This is my favorite Harley Quinn portrayal to date.
Yeah, what I said is, if I still think Birds of Prey is my favorite Harley Quinn portrayal, but I think this is her best time to be in the film.
I think I said it to you at the time that both those movies kind of work hand in hand with each other, where Birds of Prey kind of shows off her kind of emotional independence, and she can be capable on her own, and kind of like the intrinsic traits.
Yeah.
Where this movie shows her more psychotic side, and how truly dangerous she is.
This is a dangerous team. This is a truly dangerous team, and that's why they were able to take down Starro. But justice for Milton, man. Poor
Milton.
Milton should have been there in all the glory.
And then post-credit scene, the Weasel lives.
The mid-credit scene, the first credit scene that we get, the Weasel is alive. I hope he goes on a revenge. I hope if they get another film, I hope the first sequence is them trying to take down the Weasel, and the Weasel is just one of the strongest characters. Like, they gotta just call people.
He's harmless.
Yeah, he killed 27 children, but he's harmless.
Oh man, that was so fun. Oh my! That they just cut back to the beach.
Really creepy, him running away.
Real creepy looking, real unsettling to look at.
Weird.
He's like the opposite of like Baby Groot.
He is. Just no mind, just kind of living and existing. But then we get to the true post-credit scene, which is the reveal that the
backdoor pilot,
the backdoor pilot to the HBO Max Peacemaker show, he is still alive. I don't think even when you kill off John Cena, you can't kill him off.
No.
He really is somebody I think James Gunn wants to work more with. Just that kind of The Rock kind of aspect of you get this bigger actor. You don't really want to just, throw them to the side afterwards. And he works, man. Just overall, the Peacemaker works. And I think that show, like I said, it's going to set him on this fun arc.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of close with that and kind of looking towards not just the future of the Suicide Squad, but the future, this Peacemaker show, right? So they kind of give him his team, right? So it's going to be Peacemaker and then his two kind of people overseeing him that work for Amanda Waller. Yeah. And I'm getting like kind of Punisher vibes from this show. Like, what's he going to be doing? Is he going to be doing stuff for Argus? Or what is this?
Maybe he goes on his own arc, because a little just backstory on Christopher Smith. He was a diplomat before this, so he was already in Washington, D.C., and he snapped essentially. He told himself, I can't get this done as diplomat on Capitol Hill. I'm going to put on this suit and I'm going to get justice myself. But we don't know where the line of justice ends for him, because a line of justice for Batman is not the same as a line of justice for Peacemaker.
And we also don't know what his mindset is coming off of this incident, right?
Yeah.
Is he going to be vengeful?
Right. And that's what I talked about Ratcatcher too. Is he going to learn from that experience of almost holding a gun to an innocent kid, essentially, an innocent kid that really did not deserve to die in that moment? He even said, I'm thorough. Do you need to be? Do these things need to kind of follow you to the grave, essentially, which it almost did, or is he going to change? And that was my biggest thing. I think he is going to change, and that's going to be his arc that he's going to be set on for the Peacemaker show.
That'd be fun. Yeah, I'd like to see him kind of become like an anti-hero.
Yeah. What's one DC character, if you were to throw him in there, just somebody you can grab from anywhere in the DC lore to put him with in that show? Because I do believe we might get not necessarily an A-list DC hero, but I think they're going to throw some DC heroes in there.
Oppose him?
Not necessarily oppose him, just be in the show. It's a tough question, because he's a darker character, so there's not a lot you can go off of.
I almost want to see. I'm trying to think of like Flash rogues that like I would want to see just like run in. Like, I'm not sure what this Flash movie is going to end up doing. I don't think they're going to be using the rogues.
No, I think this is going to be solely more the lore of Flash in terms of the Speed Force and time travel.
Like, I don't know. I'd like to see him go up against like Captain Cold and Heatwave.
That would be great. Just these kind of comical villains that have a ice gun and a heat gun and a person.
And this guy with a steel bowl on his head shows up to like stop them or help them or whatever the case is. I'd like to see them dive into some of the lesser known Batman rogues too.
That'd be good.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. I think if it's Peacemaker, man, I kind of like that Batman route of grabbing some more Batman characters, maybe like a Batwoman or one of the Robins, or just seeing, maybe he goes, just one of the episodes he goes to like, not necessarily like a future, this is essentially, in terms of Batman's eyes, this is a future version of Gotham. We don't know anything about this Gotham too. The last thing we saw is just, there were parademons in Gotham. That's the last thing we've ever seen from the DCEU in terms of Gotham. So maybe just a Tim Drake, a Dick Grayson, a Damian Wayne would be fun. I'm going to pick Damian Wayne because we know Damian Wayne is...
That'd be cool.
He's a ruthless little crap almost. He's like he doesn't really care about people at first. He learns to care, but when you first see him, so maybe we
and
see...
piggybacking off that, I'd love to see Peacemaker go up against Red Hood.
That would be fun too. Yeah, these characters that essentially were kind of practitioned into this way of thinking, this way of life, and then it just kind of flips on the head for Red Hood especially. So that would be kind of a fun matchup. So I think the Batman route, just to get a couple more of their kind of not background essentially, but more character, because Batman obviously gets the shine, just some other Batman mythos characters just to go kind of either oppose him or be with him.
And then there's the future of the Suicide Squad. Right? Damn it! I made it a whole episode pronouncing that correctly.
Tough.
And I screwed it up freaking 70 minutes into this. But I'd love to see more of this. I'd love to see more of the Suicide Squad. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if there are plans for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's the great thing is we saw TDK, we saw the Weasel, we saw Mongal. So there's lesser known, same known, and more known characters. There's hundreds of characters that they can pull from.
And we've kind of been conditioned to believe that there are going to be sequels to everything.
Yeah.
Right? Especially with the MCU and the early DCEU. Like, we're conditioned to be like, come on, when's the next one?
Right.
For this, there doesn't have to be a next one.
Yeah, I felt very satisfied after the end of this film. They kind of get on the chopper and they're flying away and you see them just looking around the team. If I never saw anything again, I'd be sad, but I wouldn't be disappointed that I didn't see anything else, you know?
Right. I'd love to see Bloodsport again. I'd love to see Harley again, but I don't need to. Like, I feel like they kind of lived their arc, which is all you can ask out of a movie at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Is, did these characters go through an arc and do you feel satisfied?
Yeah, because what we really do too is when you get into that sequel mindset is, well, I have to judge these characters off the last film. That doesn't really help you in terms of, is this film that I'm looking at right now a good film? The MCU's that kind of oddity where you're going off of 23 movies, you're going off of 3 movies if it's a trilogy. You can go off the Avengers arc, the Guardians of the Galaxy arc. But for this, it's the here and the now, and that's how normal films work. Like if you're going to see any type of film, like let's just take Jungle Cruise because that's what's in theaters right now. I'm not going. Let's see what the Jungle Cruise sequel. If this, it's this movie that you have in front of you right now. That's what we have to judge if it's a good movie, and this is a good movie, man. This is a really well crafted movie, well directed movie, well written movie, with a lot of great characters that we can latch onto and love.
You know, it would be cool. I just thought of this for the Peacemaker thing. I would throw every penny that you can at Will Smith and bring him back as Deadshot to go up against Peacemaker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be amazing. So if I'm to end with just a really tough decision, who are you taking, Peacemaker or Bloodsport in a fight? If it's down to the wire, just
like if they were in like a Rick Flag Peacemaker fight?
Not necessarily, because you're going to want range if you're in a fight like that. That was just straight up hand to hand.
I feel like Bloodsport's just got more stuff.
He does.
And I feel like that would give him the edge at the end of the day. Like, I feel like that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is they're kind of equal hand to hand. So you kind of go with the guy that has more stuff.
Right.
Like, that's why the Captain America Iron Man fight was the way it was. Yeah. Because Iron Man had more stuff, but they weren't equal hand to hand combatants.
Yeah.
Where, like, Peacemaker and Bloodsport are equal hand-to-hand combatants, and Bloodsport has more stuff.
Yeah. I feel like they would give Deadshot some more stuff to play around with. Because, and one thing, they kind of joked that, like, Bloodsport's one of the greatest marksmen in the world. Deadshot is the marksman in the world. Like, there's nobody that's better. His name is Deadshot. There's a reason why that's his name. And I kind of want to give the edge to him in that aspect of he does not miss. He doesn't miss. He's kind of like Oliver Queen. I know they kind of joke around, and I can't remember what comic it was, but they kind of think that Green Arrow is a metahuman because he doesn't miss. That's just, he's the villain version. Deadshot does not miss. So that's my only edge to Deadshot a little bit.
I would try to get Will Smith back and be like, look, we revived this.
Yeah.
And you were one of the shining beacons of the first one.
Yeah.
So come on back.
Yeah.
Come on back, Will. Come on back. But I think that's about it. I don't think I have much more to say. I think this is easily, I think it's my favorite DC movie. I think it might be.
It's not the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Just checking.
No, it's not that. It's not Batman and Robin. It's not Batman Forever.
You didn't like the Bat credit card in Batman and Robin?
I did like the Bat credit card. I did like Mr. Freeze and all his puns.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yep.
You got me thinking now.
Yeah.
But But yeah, I think that's about it. That's going to wrap us up. Next week, we're going to talk about...
Superman.
We don't know yet. Do we?
I believe so.
Yeah, we can talk about Superman.
Yeah. We are, by the time we get to next week, I believe it's going to be the season finale of Superman and Lois. So here's myself for Superman and Lois. This is a show that I think everybody should be watching right now with it's the Superman. He's the archetype superhero. And Tyler Hoechlin has really made me care about a character that, a lot of people don't necessarily love as much as they once did in, the 50s, 60s, 70s, because he's too powerful, he's too boring, he's too normal. It's just that family man, and I think that was the best aspect of that show, is bringing his sons in and having them kind of play off each other, one with powers, one without powers. Spoilers, sorry, for the show. Not big spoilers, but... So
we'll kind of do a kind of season review of Superman and Lois next week, I think. That sounds about right.
Yeah, might talk some Superman comics, and we're probably just going to make next week a Superman kind of episode, and just talk about what he's done to kind of society almost, and where he's started and how far he's come.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the Suicide Squad? You can email us, projectinfinitepod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at projectinf_pod. What's the Instagram handle?
The Instagram handle. You can
follow us on Facebook, by the way.
Follow us on Facebook.
While Courtney looks for the Instagram handle again.
Two weeks in a row. The Project Infinite Pod. Very simple.
Yeah. So follow us on there. And as always, again, this is the 3rd episode, and just want to reiterate my gratitude for everyone who has supported us through these first 2. This is like our first big movie review, so we ran a little longer than we usually do. So hopefully you stuck around and continue to like, share, subscribe, download, leave us a nice review. We've got a handful of really great reviews from people that have been super nice and supportive. So thank you for that. And I think that's going to do it. Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think you did.
Am I missing any plugs? No.
No, just What If is going to be the next big...
Tomorrow.
Today.
Depending on when this episode comes out.
Yeah, so it should be... When you're listening to this, What If should be live.
We're recording this on the 10th. What If comes out on the 11th.
Yes, so by the time you listen to this, What If will be out. Let us know if you guys are excited for What If. That's going to be the next big project, and the next big film is going to be Shang-Chi. Expect reviews for both of those, too.
Yeah. The Captain Carter of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
I got another one. I thought I was going to get Bloodsport.
I went with Suicide Squad last week, so I kind of messed myself up.
We're just kind of looking into the future, so I'll take the Captain Carter.
Yeah, so got any parting words for us?
Yeah, just like usual, read more, write more, watch more, live more.
Watch Suicide Squad.
Watch the Suicide Squad in theaters on HBO Max.
Go to theaters. Go to the movies.
Yeah.
If you can, if it's safe.
If you feel comfortable.
I'm not trying to bully you into doing something you don't want to do. All right?
I guess you're Peacemaker this week. This is the second thread of bullying from this episode.
Other than listen to this episode, I'll bully you into that. All right? We will see you next week, and goodbye.